What's up, everybody? Welcome to Heresy Financial. My name is Joe Brown, and there's been a lot of buzz recently about Judy Shelton and the potential that she will join the Federal Reserve, and even some conspiracy theories out there that this is a move in a larger chess game to be able to reset the American monetary system back to a gold standard, that Trump is secretly playing his cards in order to make this happen. So today we are going to bust that myth, because that is not happening. And even if the Senate does vote in Judy Shelton, she is not going to be the key to a return to a gold standard. Let's dive in. Now, Judy Shelton has said some absolutely great things about our monetary system. She's advocated for a return to the gold exchange standard, not a real gold standard. She's advocated for a return to a system just like Bretton Woods, which is the monetary system that governed the world after World War II up until Nixon closed the gold window, where everybody basically had their money backed by the dollar, and then the dollar was backed by gold, but only for large institutions and other countries, not for individuals like you and me. So she's advocated a return to a system similar to that. She's questioned the need for a central bank in the past. So she said some fantastic things. But please, let's not forget the fantastic things that people like, Alan Greenspan said about gold, and that inflation was a tool to confiscate purchasing power from savers, and without a gold standard, there was no way to prevent that from happening. Well, Alan Greenspan then went on to lead the charge with creating the Fed put to rescue the markets by causing monetary inflation, lowering rates to save the markets, creating the housing bubble in the meantime that has led to where we are today, and getting us into a system that is, impossible to escape without a massive collapse. And so just because somebody said something in the past doesn't mean they're going to act on that in the future. And so I'm hopeful that if she does get in, she'll be able to make some change, but she's not even going to be in charge. And so I'm hopeful that if she does get in, she'll be a voice of opposition to the craziness that is going on there at the Fed, but I'm not holding my breath. And even if she is able to maintain integrity and she gets in there and she starts pushing for good changes instead of what they've been doing recently over the past few decades, I'm even less optimistic that she will have any real impact there. Now, the main reason for this is because the entire empire, really, of the United States rests on the ability of the Federal Reserve to print unlimited quantities of money. And any move away from what they're doing right now is absolute political suicide, because it will cause real initial damage. Because our economy right now is basically like a balloon with lots of holes in it. So you could keep a balloon inflated that has lots of holes in it by blowing massive amounts of air at a constant pace into the balloon. It'll keep it inflated as long as there's more air going in, or the same amount of air going in as is coming out those holes. But as that force increases, those holes might rip bigger, and so you have to continually increase and increase and increase. And so we're in this downward spiral right now, where if they pull back on anything that they're doing and shift to a more responsible monetary policy, the balloon will instantly deflate. And that's real pain. This is something gold bugs don't talk a lot about, but a return to a gold standard, or a return to responsible monetary policy, actually creates real damage, because anything that is held up by artificially low rates, and anything that is held up by artificially easy access to cheap debt and cheap money, and anything that is held up by this government spending power that is enabled by the Federal Reserve printing out the butt, that is all going to start to collapse. And so that's real stock market damage, that's real economic damage, that's real business closures, that's real jobs lost. It's like chemotherapy is not fun. It'll cure the cancer in the end, but it's not fun while you're going through it. There's real pain and suffering involved with it. It's better than just loading up and overdosing on morphine and Novocaine, because you're going to die from cancer in the end anyway. But it's political suicide, because the hardship that would put the country through is so great that nobody in power would ever do that, because it would cause them to take the blame for something that nobody in the society will realize is more healthy long term. And the political regimes for the last 2 decades have been doing the exact same thing. And nothing is different right now. It's more of the same. It's, hey, if there's a problem, deal with it by creating more money out of thin air and throwing money at the problem. And while that band-aids it over in the present, that causes more issues that are unforeseen and have unforeseen consequences later on. And we've seen an unprecedented amount of that by the current administration and by the current political powers that are in power all across the spectrum right now at an unprecedented pace. And so there is absolutely no way that anybody would push for a policy that would start to pull back on some of these irresponsible financial decisions, because that would cause some real damage to happen quick. And the only way that they're keeping this balloon full of holes inflated right now is to continue to pump it full of ever more air. Even though that's ripping those holes larger and larger, they're just going to keep this going as long as they can. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think we're ever going to return to a gold standard, because history shows we will. Every time this happens, it ends in a collapse despite what the people in power try to do. You can't outrun financial consequences forever. There's actual financial laws of physics, and you can't outrun those forever. The consequences will come back to bite you. And every time that happens, something like a gold standard or a gold exchange standard comes back into play. But it's not by choice of the political powers. Usually it's by necessity, because the people decide to do that. And the only way the United States government continues to keep the power that they have right now is to be able to spend dollars. That's the only source of their power right now. And they're so tapped out right now. For the last decades, they've been so irresponsible with their financial decisions that the only way they can continue to spend dollars is to continue to create them out of thin air. And so if they stop spending dollars, they lose all their power. Now, the catch-22 is that the more dollars that they spend, the less value those dollars have. And eventually, nobody will accept dollars for payment, which means doesn't matter how many dollars they print, they're worthless. And so eventually the system will break, but it is not going to happen by choice. It will only happen by necessity. So that's all for today. Sorry to burst your bubble if you were hoping that Judy Shelton was going to be a piece on the chessboard, move towards a master plan being fulfilled about a period of prosperity that we're about to enter into from a return to the gold standard. It doesn't happen like that. If somehow, against all odds, if somebody was able to get America back on a gold standard right now, the first thing that would happen would be immediate and devastating collapse across the entire system. Ultimately, it'd be more healthy long term. We'd have fantastic and tremendous prosperity from there on out, but nobody's going to take the fall and cause that to happen short term, because it is political suicide and it is too painful. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button for the YouTube algorithms. It really does help out the channel. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.